Hi guys. So I told some of you that I would talk about my AIP journey. I've officially been on the autoimmune protocol diet for a year now, as of July 11th, 2020. I began AIP on July 11th, 2019, and I'll give you a little bit of background as to why I decided to do AIP and what got me there. So I decided to finally see a doctor about issues that I had been having since I was a kid. I asked for blood work to be done, and I finally found a doctor that would listen to me. I had many doctors tell me that there was nothing wrong with me, that it was normal, especially the fact that I worked with kids or that I was a dancer. A lot of the symptoms that I was feeling, they said were pretty normal, but I just knew something else was going on and that was wrong. So I finally am so thankful for the doctor that I'm working with now. Her name is Dr. Engelman. She is at Fusion MD with Dr. Audra Fox, and thank you so much to Melody Gallimore, who is a dance parent at Everything Goes Dance Studio. She's actually the one that referred me to Fusion MD, and I couldn't be more grateful because it's changed my life for the better. As for some of the symptoms that I had been dealing with, many of these I've been dealing with since I was a small child. A lot of these symptoms included anxiety, depression, insomnia, getting sick very easily. Every little thing that went around, I caught it, and I was sick what felt like all the time. I dealt with a lot of, bruising, bruising to the extreme where even if the slightest touch, I would get a really bad bruise. And a lot of those things I thought were fairly normal, and I knew all of those things ran in my family, so I just figured they were something that I would have to deal with for the rest of my life. Some other things that I dealt with that I knew were not normal were the fact that I was exhausted all the time. I was just tired no matter how much sleep I got, no matter how much stress I took off my plate. I was absolutely overwhelmingly exhausted. You could see it on my face, you could see it on my skin, you could see it in the way I carried myself. I was just tired. I also dealt with joint pain to an extreme. It started out mild, and again, I just thought that it was because I was a dancer and I was active fairly often. And my joint pain got so bad to where right around the time that I started AIP, it was difficult to get through a night of just teaching classes and being on my feet for about 4 to 5 hours. And that to me was, I was in my late 20s. I shouldn't be feeling like that. I was also dealing with bloating and inflammation of my body. And a lot of that I noticed within my lymphatic system. So a lot of it was here within my neck and chest area, even some in my underarm area, and a lot of the bloating was within my stomach area. As a girl, nobody wants to be asked if she's pregnant. And unfortunately, because I was dealing with so much bloating, that was how my body was just dealing with my symptoms. And I did get asked often if I was pregnant, and I was not. Something else that I really started to deal with right as I decided to see a doctor and finally get a doctor to listen to me was something called purpura. And purpura is not raised bumps, but small red bumps on the skin, especially in areas where you deal with any sort of injury. For me, often it was when I would carry my purse on my shoulder, and I would get these small little red bumps all over wherever I was carrying something heavy on my shoulder or on my arm. And that was initially what brought me to seeing a doctor in the first place. I took some pictures of some of the bruises and the purpura that I was dealing with. And, I went in and I showed the doctor and I said, I've been dealing with these things. I also have been facing all of these symptoms since before I can remember. And I've had doctors tell me that everything's fine, but I'm almost 30 years old and I've never had blood work done. And I'd really like to get to the bottom of things. And if I can do it naturally, I prefer to do it that way. So, more or less, we started doing blood work, and about a month into seeing this doctor, she decided to go ahead and send me off to a hematologist. Now, dealing with a hematologist was similar to dealing with all the other doctors I had in my past. The hematologist didn't really listen to me, but she just wanted to rule out that nothing serious was wrong with me. I was dealing with a chronically low platelet count, and that was why I was initially sent to the hematologist. After I went to the hematologist, did a ton of blood work, ton of tests, and the hematologist said that she couldn't figure out anything that was wrong with me. I went back to my doctor, back to Dr. Engelman, and Dr. Engelman said, okay, well, now that we've ruled out everything that could seriously be wrong with you, why don't we try your diet? And she recommended the AIP diet to me. I was so desperate at that point to change myself and to just feel better, honestly, just to feel better in general, that I started AIP cold turkey, which for those of you that know what AIP is, to do it cold turkey is kind of wild. AIP is like a paleo diet, but way stricter. You aren't allowed to eat the following foods. You're not allowed any cane sugar, any nightshades, which are certain types of vegetables, including tomatoes, white potatoes, eggplant, and pepper of any kind, whether it be sweet pepper, whether it be spicy pepper, or whether it even be pepper-based spices, including black pepper. You're not allowed to have seeds, nuts, grains, legumes, or beans of any kind, and that also includes green beans, peas, snap peas, edamame, any type of bean like that. And you're also not allowed coffee, which is included in the bean category. And so essentially, out of all of these things, you're also not allowed dairy, including eggs, and you are encouraged to eat foods that are high in fat, similar to avocado, similar to olives, similar to high-fat fishes like salmon or whitefish. And you're also encouraged to eat fermented foods like kimchi and sauerkraut and kombucha. And these are all because these things are very healing to the stomach. The AIP diet is designed to help fix and heal something that they call, in a general sense, they call it leaky gut. And leaky gut is basically just your stomach lining that's been so damaged from all of these foods and all of these things that you've been putting in your body that you've had negative reactions to for years. And because you have been putting all these foods in your body and they've been giving you negative reactions, your stomach lining gets major damage. And so in order to help heal your stomach, you're supposed to remove anything that could be causing any sort of negative reaction. And similar to an allergy diet, it is something that you can actually do for a period of time where you have a healing period and elimination phase. And then slowly, once you feel like you are starting to get rid of the majority of your symptoms, and once you feel like you've somewhat healed, then you're allowed to start actually reintroducing some of those foods. And you reintroduce them one phase at a time and one food at a time. And it's very specific. You have to be very in tune with your body and how you're feeling. And you do have to be healed because it's very important that you don't feel any of those previous symptoms that you were feeling before, so that you know when you add a food back to your diet, you can recognize that that food gave you insomnia, or that food gave you digestion issues, or any sort of reaction, including emotional reactions, which is a little bit different than a regular allergy diet. A food sensitivity elimination diet can give you reactions all the way from hives to moodiness and insomnia and exhaustion. So it can really give you anything. For me, my journey has been a year long so far, and I can say that I started out, although for me this diet was not about weight loss, it was about healing my symptoms and feeling like a better person and feeling just healthy again, feeling like myself again, because it had been years since I had really felt like myself. I started at 176 pounds back in July of 2019, and it took about 3 months of AIP. That first 2 to 3 weeks being a little shaky, I started to notice some changes right away, some things that were healing right away, and I also dealt with an adjustment. I broke out in a weird rash the first few days. My body was adjusting and kind of getting rid of everything that was in there that was not doing it any good. And within the first 3 months, I went to see my doctor again, and she couldn't believe what she saw, because they weighed me and I went from 176 pounds to 137 pounds in 3 months. Significant weight loss. And I will tell you, this diet, again, is not about weight loss. The majority of the weight that I lost was within bloating and inflammation within my body. I didn't change a thing about the way that I exercised. I didn't change anything about the way that I slept. I didn't take any new supplements. I didn't do anything different other than changing my diet. And that is the wonderful thing that it did for me. A year later, I'm now at 127.6 pounds. I've lost a little bit more weight just simply due to stress and other things that, I think we've all been dealing with here amongst COVID-19 and quarantine. But a few things that I did just want to share with you. For me, I've told you a lot of my symptoms. A lot of my blood work, like I said, had shown a lot of patterns. I still have a chronically low platelet count, and that is something that we're still dealing with and still trying to figure out what it's coming from. I've mustered between about 83,000 to 95,000, and for a platelet count, you should on average be 140 to 400,000 units per liter, and that that's not good. I still bruise like a peach. I still get purpura every once in a while, not nearly as bad as I used to. I've also healed a low vitamin D level amongst all of this. I've healed a chronically positive EBV test, which was strange. We continuously were testing me for EBV, which is essentially mono, and my EBV test kept coming up positive, and it ran positive for almost 9 months, which is very, very unusual. And to my knowledge, I've never had mono, but who knows? And I did start taking a supplement that actually healed that, and now my chronically positive EBV test runs negative now. So if you're interested in that, feel free to DM me. I'll be happy to show you the supplement that I took that healed me of that. A few other things that I've noticed amongst my blood work that have been fairly frequent. I've had somewhat high copper levels, which has been something we've been kind of sort of trying to figure out where that's coming from. And I've had a fairly frequent homogeneous positive ANA blood result, which essentially means that I do run positive for some type of autoimmune disease. My numbers for that have gone down since I started AIP, which is wonderful. That means that it really is working and that I'm healing myself. But despite all of these blood results, my anxiety is 20 times lower than it has been. I have been sick on AIP once in the last year, and on average for me in a year, I typically get sick anywhere from 10 to 15 times in a year, which is really not good. And I've been dealing with that since I was a kid. I just was sick all the time. My insomnia has really improved. I sleep better through the night now. I have way more energy. So my exhaustion has really just healed itself. I naturally have more energy, and I think part of that too is weaning myself off of coffee, but I do still have caffeinated tea in the mornings, and also weaning myself off of cane sugar. There are things that you can have, substitutes that you can have in place of cane sugar, like honey or maple syrup, if you need a sweetener in any sort of baking recipes. But I think a lot of that has been really helpful in my energy levels. I obviously, as you can see in my weight, have decreased my bloating and my inflammation, and my joint pain is almost non-existent, which to me is the biggest factor. I can make it through an entire dance class dancing full out hardcore for an hour and a half and have no joint pain, which I would not have been able to do before. So AIP works. It really does. You really are what you eat. And if you're putting healthy, healing things in your body, then your body is going to react and run itself as such. It truly is something that works, and something that I've learned that food is medicine. So I highly encourage you, if you're dealing with any sort of issues like that, not only do I encourage you to, look into this diet, but also find yourself a doctor that listens to you and gives you what you want, because I know that diet change is not for everyone, but for me it was important to heal myself in a natural way that I wasn't going to have to take medication for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something that was sustainable and that was better for my body and more homeopathic. And this was it for me. And like I said, I'm still on the road to recovery. AIP is not a one-year journey. It's multiple years of figuring out everything that's wrong with you, and sort of, like I said, it's just a huge elimination process. But find a doctor that listens to you and don't give up on that, because I know how difficult that is. To conclude everything, I do want to show you guys a picture. I keep this picture in my hallway next to my bedroom, not only because it's an important picture to me, it's got an important person in it, but it also happened to be taken about a month or two before I started AIP, and I think it's a great example of just showing what I looked like, and you can almost see how miserable I looked. Something I didn't mention as well that you can see in this is that I dealt with a little bit of hair loss too, and I'm starting to realize that. So I'll show you this picture, and then I'll show you what I look like now. So this is a picture that was taken in May of 2019. It's myself and Haley Harder on her graduation. And you can see how incredibly bloated I am, how inflamed I am. Even my face is bloated and inflamed. My hair looks thin, my face looks tired, my stomach is bloated, and just in general, you can see I look exhausted. I just look unhappy. And I think for me, that's been the biggest thing. I've been told that I look like a different person now, and that I really look happier and glowing, and I feel like it. I really do. So this is what I look like now. Obviously I'm in workout gear, but you know, I still have a little stomach, and I definitely, you know, I feel like I can move though, and I feel healthy, and I feel like myself is the biggest thing. I hadn't felt like myself in a long time. So, you know, this is the body that my body is supposed to carry, and I feel better because of AIP. So anyway, I know this was a long video, but it's been a long journey so far, and it's still going. I'd be happy to share any other, you know, tips or recipes or anything, you know, if you guys are interested in finding out what I actually eat, and, you know, some recipes and things like that, I'd be happy to share that with you as well. I'd be happy to share some of my reintroduction stories with you. Just let me know, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you guys for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.